Welcome to Sharsheret's first ever Un-Seder. It's really meant to be an inspiring experience to help us prepare, to help center us, and all in relation to the upcoming Passover holiday. I'm going to be your moderator today. My name is Melissa Rosen, and I serve as the Director of Community Education at Sharsheret. But many of my colleagues work to create this innovative program and are joining us now to ensure the program is seamless. Although our collective quarantine jump-started this program as in-person support programs became unavailable, the focus today is really about celebrating Passover while living alongside cancer, whether currently or years ago. I think it's important to share that each presenter joining us today, myself included, shares the perspective of being a breast cancer survivor, and that has informed all of our presentations. I want to take less than a minute to discuss what's going to happen at the program and some Zoom etiquette. So today's program will include several short presentations, including Cancer, Corona, and Contentment, celebrating Passover this year, Making Healthy Choices During Passover, Finding Hope on the Seder Plate, Dayeinu, a musical interlude, and Next Year in Jerusalem, Next Year for Me, which is actually a presentation in collaboration with all of you. As Jenna mentioned, as you enter the Seder, the Un-Seder, you're going to automatically be muted. We will be manually muting anyone who doesn't stay muted, but if you need to unmute for any reason, there is a button on the bottom to mute you and to unmute yourself on the left hand of your screen. This program, as Jenna mentioned, is being recorded. If you do not want your image on the recording, you can choose to turn off your video. The option to do that is also on the bottom left hand of your screen. You also have the option of calling in and just listening via telephone, and that information was in your confirmation email. We strongly recommend that you choose the speaker view for today's presentation. The speaker view is an option on the top right part of your screen. That will really let you see the speaker's face and any stuff they have to put onto the screen. So that's really the best option. That being said, even when you choose the speaker view, there are little thumbnails or small pictures either on the top or the side of your screen to see other people who are in there. Okay, let me just get started now. How about that? I'm actually the first presentation, and this one is called Cancer, Corona, and Contentment, Celebrating Passover this year. The title's actually ordered incorrectly. We'll start off with the contentment part and the ways to deal with the challenges in our lives. Then we'll finish with Passover. I want to end on that because I'll share some very practical pieces, but let's start with some more overarching concepts. Passover is coming, right? It's basically here. As our ancestors prepared to leave slavery in Egypt, they witnessed the most frightening series of plagues. The experience must have been not just scary, but the fear must have been truly terrifying. Not just the fear of what the future held for them, but the fear of the immediate impact of the plagues on them. That is what we're facing today, quite literally. We already had enough on our plates between our usual obligations, work, family, community, and preparing for the holiday of Passover. And then, of course, dealing with a cancer diagnosis or cancer survivorship, treatment, managing side effects, concern about the future, remission and cure. And now we face an 11th plague impacting the world around us without the past assurances we had that the plague will pass over our homes. In fact, we may be at greater risk because of our medical status. So how can we possibly enjoy the upcoming holiday, celebrate our freedom, when between Corona and cancer, we feel anything but free? I want to share something with you. Those thoughts that recur in our minds as we deal with our current situations, whatever they are, cancer, COVID-19, Passover prep, they can actually be more difficult, sometimes more agonizing than the realities. Listen, we're often overachievers when it comes to imagining worst case scenarios. So how do we change that? The real question today is, no matter our current relationship to cancer, how do we go from cancer patient to a survivor, or more appropriately, to a thriver? How can each one of us live as someone who thrives no matter what life has handed us? Well, this is how. We're going to take the liberty to write parts of our own story and reframe our entire story, which, by the way, isn't necessarily an easy thing to do. We tend to tell our stories, our own stories, over and over again the same way. We're afraid of losing something. We hold on to our stories because the future is unknown and can feel scary. But we need to connect with the women we were on the day we received our diagnosis. Remind that woman of all you have learned from your cancer experience, strength and courage, a change in priorities. And then we need to connect, we need to speak to ourselves 6 months down the road, 2 years down the road, 10 years from now, and remind our future selves of all the unknowns we faced and how we blossomed. We are brave, we faced challenges. We made a difference and continue to make differences to those who are close to us and even to the world as a whole. We faced each ordinary moment, whether difficult or not, with grace and made wonderful memories. In fact, our experience with cancer may have actually prepared us more than most for this pandemic. We're better equipped to deal with isolation, as cancer may have made us immunocompromised for a period of time. We're used to uncertainty, as each step in our cancer experience is or was determined by past tests and reactions to treatment. We have knowledge and experience to share today that can help others. You know, as we consider transformative events, we typically think of big occasions, right? Marrying, having a child, an illness, or now I'll add to the list a pandemic. But here's the thing. We shouldn't only count on these events to transform ourselves. Every day we're faced with thousands of junctures that, depending on how we react, behave, or think, can transform our lives. In a single moment, we can change our lives and the lives of the people we love. And I want us to think about more of those instances, be aware of those instances, and transform the ordinary, routine aspects of our lives into those beautiful, life-altering moments. Just as we work to reframe the more unfortunate aspects of our lives into something more palatable, we can work to transform the more mundane aspect of our lives into something more beautiful. Beginning the second night of Passover, we begin to count the Omer, the period of time between now and when we received the 10 Commandments. It reminds me of how frequently we hear the women of Sharsheret counting. 3 more days until my surgery. I'm 1 week post-surgery. I have to wait another week for my pathology report. 3rd treatment in, 5 more to go. Today's 2 years post-treatment, 6 months until my next scan. But there's another dimension to this counting. Women living with cancer are not merely watching the calendar, we're making our lives count. Every day we hear from women who are strengthening their relationships, not sweating the small stuff, and finding meaning in their lives. Women are sharing what they have learned and supporting one another. Throughout this journey, women are experiencing aha moments. One caller shared that she was home recovering from surgery. She was spending a lot of time sitting with her kids, chatting, laughing, watching television. She said that these were moments that even a few weeks prior, she would have described as doing nothing because she wasn't running around doing something for the kids or with the kids. But she realized that being still and being focused in the simple moment of spending time, she felt more connected to them. This woman, she shared that she felt a shift within herself and her relationship with her family. And whether we're sitting with our families now because we're recovering from a procedure or because we're being told it's safer to shelter in place, so to speak, that's an interesting way to look at it. Gives us time to do things we might not have felt we had the time to do before. We might not have realized was important before. I'm grateful to the women and families of Sharsheret for reminding me that it's not just about counting time, but making time count. And when we focus our thoughts and our energies on the past and the future, we miss those current moments, the todays, and all the opportunities they present. That should be the goal for us, right? No matter the pandemic, no matter our cancer experience, it's a worthy way to live. How can we take this advice and make it practical for the upcoming holiday and even the days beyond Passover? No matter how we live our lives to the fullest, the reality is that cancer is exhausting and it can be a challenge to deal with the day-to-day, with work obligations, family commitments, and complications that come with an unprecedented pandemic. So with Passover coming, let's redefine what's necessary. Let's get practical for a second. Do you need your grandmother's sponge cake recipe this year? Or will this year your family be happy with ring gels and lolly cones as a dessert? Maybe to you it's not Passover without your extended family, but clearly that's not in the cards for this year. Can we reframe that temporary loss, just like we work to reframe our cancer experience? Maybe the quarantine can release some of us from the intense preparations and cooking that we probably shouldn't have been doing anyway. And hopefully, within a month or so, we can all gather with our friends and family, and it can be potluck, or better yet, catered. And that will not only be a lovely experience, but will take some pressure off of us. For some, a Zoom Seder may be an option. Again, it can be simple, it can be creative, it can be different than everything you've done in the past. Maybe children can lead it this year. Personally, I'm writing Dayeinu emails to my friends and family for them to read during their Seders, sharing my gratitude for all they have done by being in my life and how I appreciate how they always go above and beyond. So many creative options exist and ensure meaning for you and your family as we work our way through Passover and the annual calendar filled with special days, no matter our challenges. So let's take a second to sum up. You can define the moment. Instead of seeing things as good or bad, embrace the challenges that come our way and reframe. Each of us can recite our life stories, but can you rewrite some of those chapters, tweak the direction of today's story? Remember, that doesn't necessarily mean changing events, but only how we perceive and react to them. We all have the opportunity to do this every day. There's a line from Hallel, which consists of Psalms, and it's traditionally read on Passover. In Hebrew, it begins, Zehayom. In English, this is the day that God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. What a great reminder for all of us. This Passover will be different from all of other Passovers. Whether because we're dealing with cancer or dealing with the restrictions that the coronavirus has imposed, but we know that we can reframe and even edit or write the story of this Passover. The way we think about this year's celebration and about each day in quarantine, the way each of us reacts to our cancer experience is up to us. But there is no doubt this is not the holiday that any of us had hoped for, but one that will be remembered. The way we deal with it, the way we frame it, will be the way those around us, either physically or virtually, will see the current situation. So let's make those memories good ones. Thank you so much for listening. And I want to move us on to our next presenter. Our next presenter is actually Tamar Rothenberg. She is a registered dietitian and the owner of Nutrition Nom Nom. She's also an adjunct professor at Touro College, and she will be speaking about making healthy choices this Passover. Tamar.
Thank you, Melissa. That was so beautiful. Hi, everyone in Sharsheret land. I'm in Lala land, though it's not so Lala lately, but I hope we can get our groove back. So I'm Tamar Rothenberg, registered dietitian, owner of Nutrition Nom Nom, a private practice where I work a lot with breast cancer thrivers. And I am so happy to join you from my virtual office in LA. So I want to share with you first my own Pesach story from about a dozen years ago. That Passover was in particular a time of freedom for me personally, because a few days before Passover was my final chemo infusion for stage 3C breast cancer. Now, you may think I timed it that way to get out of Passover cleaning, but I'm not that clever. So as Passover literally passed, I started to feel better and better. The fog began lifting and the fatigue eased a bit. If you've been through that, you know that every day gets a little better. And it was especially joyous for me knowing I did not have another chemo coming up and my surgeries were still months away. My family came and took over my kitchen, as families do. So I have warm memories of family support and the sounds of children playing. But many of you will not have that circle of warmth and support from family. So let's shift gears and focus on reducing stress where we can. And that's my specialty that I want to talk about today, about reducing food anxiety. And I'll share some nutrition tips to support and foods to support immunity with what's available now and for Passover. I'll keep it simple, and I want to reassure you that to keep your nutritional goals and your immunity strong, there are all the foods you need available in the markets and for Passover as well. Nutrition is important, but it's also flexible. So if you're past treatment, you know that your body can bounce back. It can handle fluctuations in nutrition, and your GI system will recover, sometimes in as little as 4 days. But there are certain things that we can do to help that process along. There are foods that impact your body's resilience, and those are foods that also promote gut health. These foods are readily available on Passover. So for those in active treatment now, your priority is nourishment, simply nourishment, lots of calories, hydration, and protein. Focus on those three things: calories, hydration, protein. If your appetite is off, you can try smaller meals every few hours. And foods like soups and smoothies, that's where you can really pack in both nutrition and hydration. All foods fit right now. Don't worry about calories or things like that. For survivors and thrivers, I know a lot of things have been canceled, but fruits and veggies have not been canceled. And nuts and seeds are also a filling and nutritious option on Passover. You can practice eating mindfully, but allow yourself those fun foods so you don't feel deprived. And also know that frozen and canned foods are just as nutritious as fresh. There's very little difference. For caretakers, I just want to add a note. It's very hard to see someone who doesn't want to eat. Don't push it, just sit and eat with them. And then maybe you can find a texture or a temperature that they can tolerate. So usually cold foods will work better and they don't have smells. So if you can try to keep them out of the kitchen so the smells don't bother them. Now back to general nutrition. Of course, protein, carbs, and fats are very important. They are the trifecta of nutrition. But what about specific foods to support immunity now? And I'm not talking about boosting immunity. That's not what you want. You want to support. Here are some nutrients that you probably have on hand now. And most of those foods will also support your gut health, which is where most of your immunity actually lives. So like I said, in treatment, you will bounce back, and calories are the most important thing right now. For those in survivorship, let's talk about vitamin D. if you need it, if your lab work shows and you've spoken to a healthcare provider, you can take those vitamin D supplements. You can walk in the sun. Salmon will provide some, a little vitamin D. And there's eggs that are called pastured eggs. They are pasteurized, but they're called pastured. These have 3 to 4 times the amount of vitamin D than regular eggs. Now, if you can't find them on Passover, that's okay. You can take the supplement if you need it. For the rest, I really suggest food first, not supplements. So some of the foods that will support your immunity, for example, probiotics, vitamin C. So vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant. It heals and it supports the immune response, especially under stressful conditions. We are all under stressful conditions now. And for example, marathon runners who take vitamin C, it actually works better because of the stress that their body is under. So that works particularly well right now. And the mineral zinc actually activates certain immune cells. And finally, black or green tea. These are plant nutrients that actually fight for you. So let's look at what are some of those foods we can start incorporating. Jenna, if you could put up the handout, please, and I'll just go over it. We're going to highlight in this handout what you can find now for Passover. Okay, great. So let's go over some of these immune supporting foods. Under probiotics, right now you can find yogurt for Passover. Pro is pro health. You're supporting your gut health. Prebiotics are the foods that feed the probiotics, and those are readily available now too. Those are garlic, onions, bananas, apple, and things like flax seeds, though you want to check your particular custom for that. And all whole plant foods have prebiotics. And then turning to vitamin C, some of the food sources that you can find. So of course, citrus, but there are foods that have even more vitamin C than citrus foods. So of course, you're going to choose your lemon, lime, grapefruits, but your tropical fruits, which you can find kiwi now in the markets, 2 kiwis are your full day supply of vitamin C. So you're good with that. And then bell peppers. Some bell peppers have 7 times the amount of vitamin C than citrus fruits. So go for the whole rainbow of bell peppers. And then surprisingly, cauliflower is a great source of vitamin C, and tomatoes as well. And if we move on to zinc here, so we're going to skip over Lucky Sfardim. You can have beans, but for us Ashkenazim, I want to focus on, of course, dark chocolate. It's a very necessary ingredient right now. That has zinc. But also, you really want to incorporate a lot of nuts and seeds. So nuts, all the nuts, cashews, almonds, the nut butters, those are really good sources of zinc and protein. And your seeds, so chia seeds, quinoa. I know a lot of times after Passover, you don't want to look at quinoa anymore, but it's a great source of zinc and protein and fiber, all necessary nutrients for thrivers. And then finally, vitamin D3. So again, if you need that supplement, you're going to take it. You can get some from wild caught or any kind of salmon. And then I want to add to this list chia seeds. They are kosher for Passover. You want to check your custom. There's a custom to buy it before Passover, but that is a wonderful source of omega-3s. You can make smoothies with it. You can add it to salads. So it's a great resource for that. So how would you take these foods and put them together in some easy meals? I'm going to just give you go over some quick recipe ideas for you that you can start to do. For example, salmon, you can use canned salmon to make salmon burgers. And then what you would do instead of flour, maybe during the year you use flour, you would use almond flour, which I do see in the stores right now. So you're getting your zinc from your almond, you still have the same texture as flour, and you would add in a sweet potato to help bind those ingredients along with whatever regular ingredients you use. Simple recipe, form those patties and bake them. So that's one idea. Another idea, if you have fresh salmon, you could make a topping with avocado and lime. Lime, you're getting your vitamin C. Use that parsley if you have leftover from the Seder. Get your nutrients also, a red onion, a little olive oil, and mix up that topping, put it on fresh salmon, and you're good to go. For those in treatment, if you want to try a green smoothie, it's packed with hydration, nutrients, and vitamin C. You could take the romaine lettuce and the parsley. Yes, you can put romaine lettuce in a smoothie. Put that in a blender, and then add your 2 kiwis. That's your whole day supply of vitamin C, some gut-soothing ginger, a quarter avocado, and a cup of cucumber, and some pineapple if you want as well. Blend that up, and that's a wonderful breakfast or a snack. Very hydrating. And then finally, because I'm a dietitian, I have to talk about broccoli. So broccoli is a great food source right now for fiber and just a great whole plant food. Just do some batch cooking, like steam up a really big batch of broccoli. And all you do during the week is switch up the dressing. So for example, one dressing, you would grate ginger, you're getting that gut-soothing ingredient. For another dressing, you could make a citrus dressing to get your vitamin C, a blood orange dressing, or any citrus, lemon juice, things like that. So I hope some of those ideas are helpful for your immune supporting Passover. And I wish you a peaceful and nutritious Passover with new food memories that you can cherish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamar. That was really helpful, and I took away some ideas that I'll be using.
Okay, great.
Our next presentation is about finding hope on the Seder plate. Before we move to that one, I wanted to just remind you of one thing. I had mentioned that our the last piece of today is a collaborative piece with you called Next Year in Jerusalem, Next Year for Me. So at the end of the Seder, at the end of Seders across the world, we conclude with Next Year in Jerusalem. That's the metaphoric hope. Yet each year we have additional practical, meaningful hopes that we personally desire. So throughout the rest of the program, I want to encourage you to give some thought to those desires. And if you're comfortable, please type them into the chat box so that we can share them as an uplifting conclusion to the program today and a thoughtful way to enter the holidays. For those of you who don't know, you can access the chat box simply by hovering your mouse over the bottom of the screen and clicking the word chat. I now want to welcome Dr. Esther Altmann. She is on faculty and the Director of Pastoral Education at Yeshivat Maharat, which is located in New York, and she is going to speak about finding hope on the Seder plate. Esther?
Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. I want to start by sharing that the hardest Pesach, the hardest Seders I ever had was when I was 49, and I was in the midst of chemo treatment for breast cancer, and I was advised not to travel anywhere. Typically, my Seders were spent very, very fortunately and with great gratitude with my parents and extended family. But that Pesach, I had had several surgeries, and I was weak, and I was worried, and I wasn't feeling well 3 chemos in. So that was the hardest Pesach of my life, but yet it was still a very meaningful one. I found the support of friends who hosted me and from my immediate family, but it was different and it was challenging. This year, whether we are able to be with our families or not, and so many of us are not, the Seder will be a uniquely challenging experience. Yet I hope we can all find moments of celebration and a sense of liberation, even if fleeting, from all that oppresses us at this time. The symbols on the Seder plate are so rich and varied. I think we can find both traditional meaning and some creative meanings as well that I hope to share with you. So here's my Seder plate. And each item has a particular designated place on this Seder plate. But I'm going to mix it up a little bit. And typically, although typically karpas is usually the first symbol on the Seder plate that we use and acknowledge, I'm not going to start with karpas. And I'm encouraging each of you to find your own order, your own meaning in the different symbols that are on the Seder plate this year. I'm actually going to start with maror, even though we tend to start with karpas. And the reason I want to begin with maror, bitter herb, the memory of our slavery in Egypt, the memory of our oppression, is that it feels appropriate for so many reasons to begin on this sober note. Why do I want to start here? Because I think before we can move to hope, to gratitude and liberation, we need to just acknowledge how much pain and suffering we might truly be experiencing. Illness can be an enslavement. I think we all need a good cry. This is real, and you can cry. There is a profound sadness in ourselves, in our homes, and in the world at this time. Don't be afraid of it. When you eat maror, you can really eat a full olive-sized portion. It should bring tears to your eyes. It is sharp, it is bitter, and it is very intense. Eating maror is a therapeutic gustatory experience in this moment. And paradoxically, it might just be the thing that might help you feel better. And this is where the story of Bnei Yisrael begins, in slavery, in oppression, and in tears. You can cry about your illness, about your pain, about the limitations you may be struggling with, the impact on your loved ones, your worries and your fears, the coronavirus, the precarious state of the world, and all that you might hold dear, which may be asunder at this time. So let it out and have a good cry. It's a prescription that I'm giving everyone as a therapist. However, we don't want to stop there. Redemption is at hand, so let's not get too stuck, but shift to matzah, the bread of our liberation. Now, matzah is not actually on the Seder plate, but it seemed certainly so central and appropriate that I thought I would talk about it as well. Bnei Yisrael ate matzah instead of bread because they were in a big hurry to leave Mitzrayim, lest Paro change his mind once again. The rabbis of the Talmud were deeply preoccupied with ensuring that matzah was made before the flour could rise, and they spent a great deal of time thinking about just how precisely matzah needed to be made. They established that 18 minutes was the very maximum time for making matzah to prevent any fermentation of the dough. This is in stark contrast to how we make bread or challah. If you make challah, you know that it is a very luxuriant and forgiving and time-consuming process. The bread rises over a couple of hours. You may give it a punch or two, you let it rise again, you knead it, and then you might shape it into bread. It's a slow, creative, and relaxing endeavor. Not so matzah. If you have ever been to a matzah factory or watched a video of people making matzah, you can see the tension in their bodies as they rush to make every minute count. Every second is orchestrated and choreographed. Illness represents the difference between challah and matzah. In our regular lives, we move through our days and years with a sense that time can expand. It can rise like bread. In contrast, when one is ill, every minute feels like it counts. Every minute can feel weighted with an important task that needs to be done. This has many advantages. You may have great insights about what you care about most deeply. and how you can use this time to frame and highlight what is most essential for you. I am not saying this, certainly not saying this, to create any sense of pressure, but rather I'm suggesting that it might be helpful to be mindful of each minute and to reevaluate our core values and priorities. I thought that this was a gift from my illness that I would bring into my recovery. However, I must confess that this mindset is truly challenging to sustain. It is hard to live each day with the press of just 18 minutes, and that is also okay. We will go back to baking challah after Pesach, and I hope that we will all be able to integrate both the crispness of the matzah and the much softer, gentler doughiness of the challah into our lives moving forward. And now let's talk about the zroa, the shank bone, which represents the Paschal offering. The very first Pesach was one in which each family was commanded to do their own Korban Pesach. They each slaughtered their own lamb, and they were commanded to eat it in their own homes with their own families. Perhaps this year, more than any other year, we are recreating that very first Pesach more than we ever have before. This year, instead of traveling to be with relatives or friends or to far off places, we are like Bnei Yisrael in that dark night before leaving Mitzrayim. We are in our own homes. Rabbi Isaac Luria, the 16th century Kabbalist who lived in Spud, connected the zroa with the mystical aspect of chesed. This is because he would say that the zroa is also the outstretched arm, the zroa of God, the outstretched arm of God. And that the zroa, or the outstretched arm, is what took us out of Mitzrayim, and it also reflects our ability to reach out our own arms to care for others. You might feel that this year, your ability to reach out and extend your arm might be limited, but that is okay. It is the chesed that emanates from your home that is most fundamental and important. The next symbol is the beitzah, the egg. And the egg is a symbol of the sacrifice that was brought to the temple. We also think of an egg as a symbol of the life cycle. It is round, it has no edges or corners. This Pesach, I invite you to think about the life cycle moment. I invite you to think about a life cycle moment in your past that brought you great joy. Take a moment, close your eyes, imagine the setting, the smells, the people who were with you there to celebrate. It could be a graduation, a wedding, a bar or bat mitzvah, the completion of a project, a book party, a birthday, a promotion at work. Any moment in your life that felt like an arrival, an achievement, a moment to pause and celebrate. Reflect back on that event and hold it close in your memory. Let it bring you delight. Remember the feeling of accomplishment once again. You might also want to think about a current or a future life cycle moment that you are looking forward to or anticipating. It does not have to be something major. It can be a small but meaningful milestone. You can imagine putting yourself in that setting at some future point in time. Hear the music, smell the fragrances, the cacophony of voices, the laughter. Take a moment and just imagine a past life cycle event or one that you're anticipating that might bring you delight and joy. Let's move on to the Haroset. The Haroset is perhaps everyone's favorite symbol on the Seder plate because it's quite delicious, and we're usually very hungry by the time we get to the Haroset. It's made of sugar, nuts, wine, maybe apples or dates. It is meant to symbolize the extra work, the additional oppression suffered by Bnei Yisrael in Mitzrayim. They had to make their own mortar to build the pyramids. Thus, it is a further symbol of the embitterment of Bnei Yisrael. So the sweetness of the Haroset reflects a certain kind of irony, a paradox. It's a perfect example of the blending of despair and hope. The Haroset is often a food that we experiment with on Pesach. There are so many creative and new and unique traditions and different ways to make Haroset. It enables us to mix it up a little bit, to be our full selves, our full creative selves, and really enjoy the complex flavors that we can bring to it. I have another interpretation of Haroset. When I think about it as a material. Originally, when Bnei Yisrael was making the mortar for the bricks, it was a material made out of mare, straw, and mud that together created the binding of the bricks that built the pyramids. So these materials on their own, straw and mud, were actually very fragile. They did not have any power, any inherent strength in themselves. Yet when they were combined, they produced something very powerful, a substance that could hold together huge, heavy stones. I invite you to make and eat your Haroset this year with the idea that fragile elements can combine together to produce something strong and binding, a material to support great weight. Haroset can remind us that alone we are fragile, but when we combine our unique characteristics, when we mix it all up with other elements, we become a bonding substance, a cement that binds us and strengthens us and enables us to build strong foundations. And finally, I'm going to come to the karpas. The karpas, which represents renewal, spring, hope, rejuvenation. We dip our karpas into the salted water which represents the tears of Bnei Yisrael, and also the salty water of the Yam Suf. When Bnei Yisrael crossed the Yam Suf, they sang a song of jubilation and thankfulness. The pasuk says, "Az yashir Moshe u'bnei Yisrael." Many commentators are very puzzled by the term "az." It seems to be an odd tense. It doesn't really reflect the present moment. It may mean when or then. They can't quite place why this kind of grammatical oddity is at the beginning of this pasuk. The Eish Kodesh, the rabbi of the Warsaw Ghetto, had a very beautiful insight about the meaning of the az. He said that the song was actually written when Bnei Yisrael were still slaves. That Bnei Yisrael, during their enslavement, were able to anticipate their release, their freedom, and they wrote songs in anticipation of their liberation. So when we dip the karpas into the salted water, we can be reminded of Bnei Yisrael's hard work of hope that only came to be realized at a future date. So we too need to prepare our songs. We need to try and best prepare our songs, even in our moments of deepest struggle and challenges, in the hope that we too will have an az moment when we can sing our songs of freedom and release. This Pesach of all Pesachs, we are uniquely challenged to find that us moment. I encourage each of you, like Bnei Israel, who jumped into the Yam Suf, seeking redemption, to compose your songs of jubilation, your poetry of hope and thanksgiving, in whatever way you may be able to now imagine it, for your future, for the futures of your loved ones, and for the generations to follow. My wish for you and everyone is that this Pesach brings us a time of healing, a time when you can access your inner strength and resilience in whatever small ways are feasible for you, and that the symbols of redemption on your Seder plate will be imbued with meaning and with hope. Chag Sameach.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I really know that we all appreciated those sentiments. I want to remind people before we move to our next presentation to take a moment while you're enjoying the music in the next few moments to type in what your hope for next year is, and we'll conclude with that. But now I want to introduce to you Cantor Toby Schwartz, who is the B'nai Mitzvah coordinator at Valley Beth Shalom in Encino, and she is going to share some thoughts on Dayeinu, as well as sing a few verses for us. So Toby, please.
Hi everybody, I'm Cantor Toby Schwartz, and I am delighted to be here with you all. I have been wrestling with, should we sing first or should we talk first? And I think we should sing first, just so we have a little change and we can absorb everyone's beautiful words, because I've learned a lot so far. So even though you're all on mute and all around the country, please sing, at least the Dayeinu part. Ilu hotzianu mi Mitzrayim v'lo asavahem shefatim Dayeinu. Everybody, Dayeinu, 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 Dayeinu. Ilu natan lanu et Torah velo kervatnanu lifnei har Sinai. Dayeinu, 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 Dayeinu. Everybody sing Dayeinu, 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 Dayeinu. Ilu natan lanu et Torah v'lo hischisanu le'eretz Yisrael. Dayeinu, 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 Dayeinu. So now the harder part, I get to talk. I am a recent survivor, very recent survivor. 2 years ago yesterday, on April 4th, during Pesach, I was given my diagnosis of breast cancer stage 2B. And that was probably the worst Pesach of my life. Last year, during Pesach, when I was finished with my chemo, but still doing Herceptin infusions monthly, just before Pesach, my mother died. So for Pesach, we were in Shiva. That was the second worst Pesach of my life. This year, seems like we're all having an interesting Pesach together. And I need to let you know first that despite being a Cantor, I don't like Pesach very much, because I have viewed Pesach for all the years while I've done everything for my family and my children to make a sense memory of Pesach, a beautiful celebration that they would remember. Personally, I always felt like a slave. I still felt like I was in Yetziat Mitzrayim, and by the cooking, the cleaning, the shopping, the preparation, and then I had to sit down and lead my Seder because that's what you do when you're the Cantor. I definitely felt like a slave. But now I'm looking at Pesach differently. This year, we're all looking at Pesach differently. But now I'm looking at Pesach, and I thought about the word Dayeinu, and I decided that Dayeinu is gratitude. So what are you grateful for? That's the question I have for each of you. What are you grateful for this Pesach? I am grateful, like many around the world, I am grateful to the doctors, to the hospitals, to the nurses, to the first responders, to those who are taking care of all of us in this terribly challenging time. For us as cancer survivors, and I'm still grappling with that word personally. I'm not sure I haven't gotten to the point where I call myself a survivor yet. I'm grateful for those doctors who have put forth so much time and energy in research, in testing, in finding us new medications. I would not personally be here if the good doctors at UCLA had not discovered Herceptin. I don't think I'd be sitting here today if that were not the case. And I am profoundly grateful to them. I heard that their story of one of them who said he became a researcher in the field of cancer because his own mother went through the trauma of cancer and did survive for a very long time. And it inspired him as his life's work. And I am so grateful for him and all of his colleagues and all the choices that they make to do their best to help all of us. I'm still scared. Can't tell you I'm not. But I'm looking to find this Pesach not to be as a slave. Definitely not to be as a slave. And not to be as a person who is suffering from cancer. I'm blessed with so much gratitude that I am feeling better, that I am strong, and trying hard to be grateful for every day and trying every night not to give in to the, oh my gosh, panic of cancer. And now we have our own, our worldwide panic of coronavirus. So I urge you not to panic, to hold on to that strength that each and every one of you has as a cancer survivor, and say, Dayeinu. It could have been enough, right? You had your surgery, you had your treatment, could have been enough. But there are new avenues every day that are being found for us. And my wishes for next year are next year that we are healthy, Dayeinu. Next year that we will meet here again as survivors and as thrivers. And that each one of us should be grateful as much as we can. For those of you who are still in treatment, my heart is with you. You're in my prayers. If you want to send me, type in your Hebrew name. I will add you to my Mishaberach list. And I'll pray for everybody. That's the only thing I think I can do. But I'm grateful, and I say, Dayeinu, amen. We should all be here to talk next year, maybe to see each other in person and meet with joy. Dayeinu. Thank you so much.
Toby, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for the music that uplifted us and for your thoughts, which you gave so personally and reminded us we all have so much to be grateful for. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, so some of you have been putting in things that your hopes for next year, a year from now. We all say next year in Jerusalem, but we all have our personal next years. So two of my wonderful colleagues, Jessica and Rachel, who Jessica is the outreach coordinator, the Valley Outreach Program Coordinator in California, and Rachel is the support program coordinator. We'll be sharing some of those and then we'll wrap up super quickly. Okay, so Jessica, do you want to start off?
Sure. Susan says she wishes for the new year no more COVID-19. We will be talking around the table, telling stories of Passover, with 2020 being the year of away from everyone.
It's true. It's true. Rachel, do you have one?
Yes. So I saw one also where someone shared that they would love to be with their family, particularly being with their grandson, and to continue years of healing from her diagnosis and any complications.
Thank you. Want to go back to Jessica? We can go back and forth.
Sure. Rabbi Claire said, my hope is that the 6 symbols on the Seder plate take on new positive Passover plague meanings.
I like that. Rachel?
Sorry, guys, I'm just scrolling through here to find all these great comments. Thank you for sharing. I see another person here. I think it was also Rabbi Claire shared another wonderful thought, saying that specifically something about, to finish, that you wrote 6 hopes, thank you for sharing, something about the shank bone with a strong arm that Hashem took our ancestors out of Egypt, and that you feel that we will be taken out of our Egypt pandemic sooner than later. And you have your tambourine ready, which I love. That sounds great. And you are discussing how you feel like you're going to be a changed human, and you're prepared to let old explanations of your life and story fall away. And for me, it's enveloped up in Hashem's name. Beautiful. Thank you.
Cindy said, next year I hope for all of us to be stronger, able to connect better with our families, and to be able to be a great and positive contribution to our local and global communities.
That's beautiful. Rachel, do you have?
Yeah, okay. And I see another one here, just that that somebody wrote in that they would like, that they're just grateful for Zoom and hoping that we can all be in person together next year.
That is good.
I hope to be able, from Aisha, I hope to be able to provide Sharsheret as a resource to all those who may benefit from the great service they provide.
And our last one, I think, says, for next year, this is from Leslie, sorry. I'm looking forward to a virus-free and family-full Pesach. As I am a chronic ovarian cancer patient, I hope that there are cures for all types of cancer.
That's a beautiful sentiment to end on. So let me, as we finish up, a couple of things. I want to thank everyone who participated on this experience, in this webinar experience. Rachel and Jessica who read, Jenna who started the presentation, and our presenters who came from all over the country to share such unique and different perspectives and experiences. That was wonderful. And I want to thank you. We all came, we had 85 women join us, and we all came from different places, both medically, geographically, Jewishly, and we joined together, and it was really beautiful. I want to thank three organizations we worked with. This Un-Seder was presented with the support of Komen Los Angeles, in partnership with breastcancer.org, and in cooperation with the Centers for Disease Control, agreement number DP 141408. I also want to let you know that we will go through the chat, and if there were questions that weren't answered, we will reach out to you individually. If there were concerns we couldn't address, we will reach out to you individually. I know we're also looking at some recipes perhaps from Tamar to send out in print. And as we finish, my final wish is that I hope that the stressors that we face today, no matter where they come from, pass over us, and we're able to feel peace, contentment, and joy for the holiday and beyond. And please remember that Sharsheret is here to help you. No matter your concern, we do this via email, via phone, always. For us, things haven't changed. So if you have some concerns or need some support or the opportunity to vent, please do not hesitate to reach out to Sharsheret, and we are here for you.
Yes, I just wanted to personally introduce myself. My name is Rachel. For those of you who, I don't know if I was one of the people just reading from the chats that you guys shared. I am one of the social workers on the clinical team for Sharsheret, and I just wanted to say a big thank you for everybody who did, feel comfortable sharing your thoughts with all of us here in this community type Seder, or Un-Seder, however, whatever that might look like now for everybody. We did get one really sweet last chat about having animals keeping us company, and I think that's definitely a great point. I know a lot of us are feeling alone for different reasons, even if we're not physically alone. And I just wanted to remind everyone that Sharsheret really is here for you. And we are, myself and my amazing team of colleagues who are all trained social workers to be there for you through all of this. It will be our pleasure. Don't hesitate to reach out. We are still, Sharsheret strong, and we are here to be your Sharsheret family. You are never alone in this. So please, anything at all, my email was on the invite that you guys joined the webinar with, but you can always go on our website, reach out to clinical staff, or give us a call at any point to speak with any of us.
Perfect. Have an easy prep, and although different, wonderful Passover, and we will see you as spring progresses. Thank you very much.